Life has a strange way of teaching us lessons. The more we try to control every little detail, the outcomes, the timing, the way people respond, the more frustrated and exhausted we become. We plan our lives down to the smallest steps, believing that if we just try harder, push more, and never let go, then everything will finally fall into place. But what if I told you that the opposite is true? What if the moment you stop forcing, stop gripping so tightly, and start trusting, everything begins to flow effortlessly? This isn't about giving up. It's about understanding where your real power actually lies. The Stoics understood this truth centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote about accepting what comes naturally and not wasting energy fighting reality. He knew that resisting what we cannot control only creates suffering. The real battle is always within, training the mind to focus on what can be shaped and learning to release the rest. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. A mindset shift that can completely transform how you approach success, relationships, and even your inner peace. Because if you're constantly stressed, feeling like no matter what you do, things never seem to work out, there's a reason. You may be holding on too tightly to things that were never meant to be controlled in the first place. And if this message is already resonating with you, take a moment, pause the video, and let it sink in. Sometimes awareness itself is the first step to change. This isn't just another self-improvement talk. This is about something deeper. How to live with real confidence. How to move through life with calm and clarity, instead of anxiety and frustration. And trust me, if you stay until the end, you'll walk away with a completely new perspective on control, peace, and the way life truly works. On how to get what you want in life without chasing it desperately. Before we go deeper, take a moment to truly be present with this idea. We spend so much of our lives obsessing over results, waiting for that job offer, hoping a relationship works out, constantly stressing about whether our efforts will finally pay off. We tell ourselves that if we just work harder, push a little more, and hold on tightly enough, we can force life to go our way. But what actually happens? The more we cling to a specific outcome, the more anxious we become. The process stops feeling meaningful, and our happiness becomes dependent on something we were never meant to fully control. And that's where we trap ourselves. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught that we suffer, not because of what happens, but because of our attachment to what we want to happen. He said, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happens as it should, and you will be at peace." In other words, instead of tying your happiness to a single outcome, focus on the process. Focus on what you can control, your actions, your discipline, your mindset, and learn to release everything else. Think of an artist painting a masterpiece. If they obsess over making every brushstroke perfect, worrying about how others will judge their work, they never enter a creative flow. But when they let go of the final result and focus only on the act of painting, something powerful happens. They become fully immersed in the moment. The work feels effortless, and ironically, that's when their best art is created. The same principle applies to life, to work, to relationships, to personal growth. When you stop fixating on how things must turn out, you give yourself the freedom to actually enjoy the journey. This is especially true in relationships. Have you ever seen someone try too hard to impress another person? Their energy feels needy, desperate, almost forced. And what happens? It pushes people away. But when someone is calm, confident, at ease with who they are, and not attached to a specific outcome, they naturally attract others. Why? Because they're not driven by fear. They trust that whatever is meant to happen will happen. That is the power of detachment. Now let's talk about success. So many people believe that if they don't achieve a specific goal by a certain time, they've failed. They treat life like a rigid checklist. Graduate by this age, make this much money, get married, reach this level of success. And when life doesn't follow that script, they spiral into self-doubt. But here's the truth. Success is never a straight line, Stoic. It's filled with twists, setbacks, and unexpected opportunities. And if you're too attached to one specific outcome, you might miss something, even better, that life is trying to offer you. So take a moment and ask yourself, what am I holding on to too tightly? What goal, expectation, or outcome is creating stress in my life right now? Now imagine what would happen if you loosen that grip, not giving up, but trusting that whatever happens, you'll be okay. That's detachment. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing things to go a certain way just to feel at peace. So how do you practice this in real life? First, remind yourself daily that outcomes are beyond your control. All you truly control is your effort, your discipline, and your mindset. Second, reframe your thinking. Instead of saying, I need this to happen, shift to, I trust that whatever happens will contribute to my growth. And finally, anchor yourself in the present moment. The more deeply you live in the now, the less power the future holds over you. Life constantly throws challenges our way. Some days, everything flows effortlessly. Other days, it feels like the world is working against you. The difference between those who crumble under pressure and those who grow stronger isn't luck. It's mindset. The way you think shapes the way you experience life. And if you don't learn to master your mind will end up mastering you. You can't always control what happens around you, the economy, other people's actions, or unexpected obstacles, but you can always control how you respond. That's where real power lives. The moment you shift from reacting to responding, everything changes. Psychologist William James, often called the father of modern psychology, once said, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." This is exactly what the Stoics taught. You don't have to believe every thought that enters your mind. You don't have to let every difficult moment define who you are. Instead, you can train yourself to step back, to reframe situations, and to see them from a higher perspective. Here's another example. Imagine you're going through a tough phase at work. You keep making mistakes. Your boss is constantly watching you, and you feel like you're failing. One way to respond is to think, I'm terrible at this. I'll never get better. Maybe I'm just not good enough. That's a fixed mindset. And it traps you in self-doubt. But what if you challenge that thought? What if instead you told yourself, I'm learning. Every mistake is teaching me something. The pressure I'm feeling is shaping me, not breaking me. That's a growth mindset. And it gives you the power to turn struggles into opportunities. The Stoics believed that every challenge is an invitation to practice virtue, patience, resilience, and wisdom. Seneca once said, difficulties strengthen the mind, just as labor strengthens the body. Meaning this, every struggle, every setback, every moment of frustration is quietly training you to become stronger. Think of it like lifting weights. If you never challenge yourself, you never build strength. The same rule applies to the mind. But let's be honest, mastering your mindset doesn't happen overnight. It requires daily practice. One simple way to begin: pay attention to your inner dialogue. Are you constantly feeding yourself thoughts of fear, doubt, and negativity? Or are you training yourself to notice opportunities, to reframe situations, and to remain calm? In moments of uncertainty, your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant is what grows. If you plant seeds of fear and anxiety, that's what will take over. But if you plant seeds of strength, clarity, and resilience, those are the qualities that will grow instead. Another powerful way to strengthen your mindset: train yourself to stay present. So much stress comes from replaying the past or worrying about the future. But the only thing you can ever truly control is this moment, right now. The next time you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, what can I do right now that will move me forward? That single question can pull you out of panic and bring you back to what actually matters. Patience is one of the hardest qualities to develop, especially when you're working towards something meaningful. You've put in the effort. You've done everything right. And still, nothing seems to be happening. It's frustrating, isn't it? The world teaches us that success should come quickly, that if we're not seeing instant results, we must be failing. But the truth is, life doesn't move according to our timeline. It moves at its own rhythm. And when we try to rush the process, we often create our own disappointment. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." Let that sink in. Anything truly valuable, wisdom, strength, success, takes time to form. Just like you can't force a tree to grow faster by pulling on its branches. You can't force life to give you what you want before the moment is right. There is an order to things. And when you learn to trust that timing, you release yourself from so much unnecessary stress. Imagine a young artist who dreams of making a name for themselves. They work tirelessly, pouring their heart into their craft, yet the recognition they crave doesn't come. At this point, they face two choices. They can grow frustrated, lose faith, and walk away. Or they can trust that every brush stroke, every piece of work, is quietly preparing them for something greater, even if they can't see it yet. Those who trust the process keep moving forward, and eventually, they find themselves exactly where they were meant to be. We live in a culture of instant gratification, fast food, fast information, fast success. We've been conditioned to believe that if something doesn't happen quickly, it isn't worth waiting for. But some things must take time. Relationships, personal growth, mastery of any skill, all of these require patience. Socrates once said, "To do is to be," meaning growth happens in the process, not just in the outcome. And it's if you're always focused on when something will happen, you miss out on who you're becoming along the way. But here's the difficult part. How do you stay patient when it feels like nothing is happening? The Stoics would say, focus on what's in your control. You can't control timing, but you can control your actions. You can keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep growing as a person. And most importantly, you can trust that if something is meant for you, it will arrive. Not a second too early, not a second too late. One of the greatest lessons Stoicism teaches is the power of acceptance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together. Instead of resisting life's timing, learn to move with it. If things aren't happening as fast as you want, maybe it's because you're still becoming the person who's ready for them." Have you ever noticed that the harder you chase something, the further it seems to move away? Whether it's a job, a relationship, or even success itself. The more frantic and needy your energy becomes, the more things slip through your fingers. It's almost as if desperation pushes life away. But when you move with purpose, with calm confidence, things begin to align naturally. There's a powerful difference between chasing and attracting. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, before you act, be clear about why you're acting. Desperate action comes from fear. Fear of missing out. Fear of failure. Fear of not being enough. Purposeful action, however, comes from clarity and strength. When you know who you are and what you stand for, your actions become more intentional, more grounded, more effective. Let's look at an example. Imagine two people searching for a job. The first person is desperate. They send applications everywhere, applying for roles they don't even want, panicking over every rejection. Their energy is scattered, anxious, and uncertain. The second person is different. They're focused. They know their strengths. They take time to craft meaningful applications. They prepare carefully, without obsessing over immediate results. Who do you think is more likely to get hired? The one who moves with calm confidence and strategy, not the one acting from fear. The same principle applies to relationships. When you enter a relationship from desperation, fearing loneliness, seeking validation, it often leads to disappointment. But when you approach relationships with self-respect and confidence, you attract healthier, more fulfilling connections. People are drawn to those who are secure in themselves, not to those grasping for attention. Aristotle spoke of eudaimonia, a state of living with purpose and fulfillment. He believed true happiness doesn't come from chasing external things, but from aligning your actions with your values and virtues. Act with wisdom, act with integrity, act with purpose, and let the outcomes take care of themselves. When you move with intention, instead of panic, you make better decisions. You stop wasting energy on things that don't align with your true goals. Think of a seasoned chess player versus a beginner. The beginner reacts impulsively, making moves out of fear and uncertainty. The expert plays patiently, seeing the bigger picture, making deliberate choices. Life works the same way. If you constantly react from fear, you create more chaos. But when you pause, act with clarity, and trust the process, you move closer to the life you actually want. So how do you shift from acting out of desperation to move from desperation to acting with purpose? The first step is clarity. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I truly want it, or because I'm afraid of not having it? Second, slow down. Desperation rushes. Purpose moves with patience. Instead of making decisions from a place of fear, give yourself the space to reflect, to breathe, and to choose wisely. And finally, trust yourself. You don't need to force life into place. When you act with confidence and alignment, opportunities begin to meet you naturally. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Much of desperation comes from imagined fears. What if I fail? What if I don't succeed? But the truth is, you are stronger than you think, and you don't need to scramble. For what is meant for you, act with purpose, move with confidence, and watch how life begins to align in your favor. Have you ever felt exhausted from trying to control everything? You plan, you push, you strategize, yet somehow life still refuses to unfold the way you expect. It's frustrating, isn't it? You try to make people act a certain way, force circumstances into place, predict every possible outcome, only to find yourself more stressed and less in control than ever. The harder you grip, the more slips through your fingers. But here's the paradox. The moment you let go, life begins to work with you. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding what lies beyond our control." Think about that. True freedom doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from releasing the need to control. The more energy you spend trying to manage what was never yours, other people's opinions, the past, the future, the more drained you become. But when you shift your focus to what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your responses, you reclaim your power. Take relationships, for example. Have you ever tried to change someone? A friend, a partner, a family member. You wanted them to be different, more understanding, more supportive, more aligned with your expectations. Yet no matter how hard you tried, they remained the same. That's because people are not ours to control. We can communicate. We can set boundaries. We can choose who we allow into our lives. But we cannot force someone to change. And the moment you release that need, you free yourself from frustration and allow relationships to unfold naturally. The same applies to success. Many people believe that if they just push harder, they'll reach their goals faster. But there's a difference between effort and control. You should absolutely work toward your goals. But obsessing over every detail, stressing about timing, and fearing failure only creates resistance. Seneca once said, "Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant." In other words, when you fight the natural flow of life in us, you create suffering, unnecessary struggle. But when you trust the process and focus on what's within your power, life begins to unfold with far greater ease. Imagine you're preparing for an important interview. You've done the research. You've practiced. You're ready. But instead of trusting your preparation, your mind starts racing. What if they ask something I don't know? What if I mess up? What if I don't get the job? Now your energy shifts from confidence to anxiety. You walk into the interview, tense, nervous, second-guessing yourself. That need for control is actually making you perform worse. But take a deep breath. Remind yourself, you've done the work. Let go of the outcome. Now you walk in calm, present, and far more likely to succeed. So how do you begin to let go of control? First, recognize what is and isn't within your power. The Stoics believed in the dichotomy of control. There are things we can influence and things we can't. Wasting energy on the uncontrollable only leads to frustration. Second, practice acceptance. Life won't always go according to plan, but that doesn't mean it's going wrong. Sometimes detours lead to better destinations. And finally, build trust, not just in life, but in yourself. Trust that you can handle whatever comes, even if it's not what you expected. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to attract success, opportunities, and even happiness almost effortlessly? It's not that they have some secret advantage. It's their mindset, the way they think, the way they carry themselves, the way they see the world. That mindset creates a reality where abundance flows naturally toward them. On the other hand, people who constantly focus on what they lack often struggle endlessly, no matter how hard they work. It's not about luck, it's about the energy you bring into your life. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." True abundance isn't about hoarding money, collecting achievements, or endlessly chasing more. It's about realizing that you already have what you need to live a fulfilled life. When you stop operating from a mindset of scarcity, believing you never have enough, you make space for more to arrive naturally. Imagine two people walking into the same room. The first focuses on everything they don't have. They compare themselves to others, feel like they're falling behind, and believe success is always out of reach. Their energy feels heavy. Their words are filled with doubt. Without realizing it, they repel opportunities. The second person walks in believing they already have enough knowledge, enough skills, enough opportunities ahead. They engage confidently, build connections naturally, and leave with new possibilities. The only difference? One lived in scarcity, the other in abundance. And this isn't just about money or success. It applies to relationships, to happiness, even to time. If you believe, there's never enough love, never enough time, never enough good people, your mind will always search for proof of that belief. But when you shift your focus, you begin to see opportunities everywhere. You notice the kindness in others, the possibilities in each moment, and the blessings already present in your life. Psychologist William James once said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can change their life by changing their attitude." When you constantly feel like something is missing, your mind locks onto that lack. But when you train yourself to see abundance, when you practice gratitude, confidence, and trust in life, your entire reality begins to shift. It isn't magic, it's perception. What you focus on grows. Think of a musician approaching their career with a scarcity mindset. They're always worried. There aren't enough opportunities. The industry's too competitive. They'll never make it. Every rejection feels like confirmation of their fears. So they play it safe. They hesitate. They avoid risks. And in doing so, they miss potential breakthroughs. Now imagine another musician, one who believes in abundance. They see rejection as redirection. They see challenges as chances to improve. They take more risks, connect with more people, and over time, they find success. Not because they were luckier, but because they embodied abundance instead of fear. So how do you begin to live from abundance in your own life? First, start with gratitude. Instead of focusing on what's missing, notice what's already here. When you appreciate what you have, you create space for more to come. Second, move as if you already have enough. Walk through life with quiet confidence, trusting that opportunities exist all around you. And finally, release attachment. Trust that what's meant for you will arrive, not through force, but through alignment between your actions and your beliefs. Have you ever caught yourself obsessing over a goal, pushing harder and harder, yet feeling like you're running in circles? You follow every step, do everything right, but the results don't arrive as quickly as you want. It's frustrating, isn't it? We've been taught that success means constant effort, never stopping, never letting go. But what most people don't realize is this: there's a difference between aligned action and desperate action. And sometimes, real progress comes from knowing when to move forward and when to step back. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca once said, "Effort and patience will achieve more than force and anxiety." We live in a culture that glorifies the grind. The idea that if you work hard enough, life has to reward you. But true success isn't about blind effort. It's about taking the right steps, remaining open to opportunity, and then allowing life to unfold. Because forcing things only creates resistance. It's like pulling at a knot. The harder you pull, the tighter it becomes. Imagine trying to fall asleep. You can't force sleep, can you? The more you try to sleep, the more restless your mind becomes. But the moment you relax, when you let go and trust that sleep will come, it arrives naturally. The same is true for success, for relationships, and even for personal growth. Yes, you must take action, but you must also trust the process. Think of a farmer planting seeds. They prepare the soil, they plant the seeds, they water them, and make sure they get enough sunlight. But after that, they don't dig up the seeds every day, demanding they grow faster. They trust that in time, the crops will flourish. If they tried to rush the process, they would only destroy what they planted. Life works the same way. You take action, you do your part, and then you allow things to develop at their own pace. This applies to every area of life. Take relationships, for example. Have you ever met someone who tried too hard, always texting, always seeking reassurance, always needing validation? Their energy felt heavy, almost desperate. But then there's another kind of person: calm, confident, present. They show interest, but they also give space. And naturally, people are drawn to them because they aren't forcing anything. That's what happens when you take aligned action and then let go. You create space for things to flow instead of suffocating them. Now think about your career. Maybe you've been hustling nonstop, trying to force every opportunity, yet nothing seems to move forward. What if, instead of panicking, you trusted that your effort was enough? What if you focused on mastery, becoming excellent at what you do, building meaningful connections, and allowing the right doors to open at the right time? This doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you stop trying.